Joining me now on set is Daniella Diaz, congressional reporter for Politico. Chuck Rocha, co-host of the Latino Vote podcast and founder of Nuestro PAC, and Republican strategist Matt Gorman. So, Daniella, you've heard this one before. 2024 is going to turn on which party can turn out their voters. Who would you rather be if you look at those data points right now between the president and the former president locked in this messy rematch?
Honestly, neither. It looks really, you guys are the experts. It looks really, really tough. This is an election that I'm actually very excited to not be covering, considered I did cover 2020 as a campaign embed, and that one was pretty interesting in Iowa, seeing who could be the front runner there. As we remember, Biden wasn't the front runner in Iowa at all. That turned out to be a mess. We'll see how this goes in just a couple of weeks. But they both are facing really tough odds right now, and that's what I find interesting is that Nikki Haley is still in the race. And even though she's not beating Trump right now in primary polls, she could be Biden in a general. But when in Iowa, it doesn't seem like it. Maybe she has a stronger chance in New Hampshire. That's after Iowa. But it's tough. I think it's going to be tough to see how these two get voters to turn out for them.
To get people excited. Matt, one of the things that struck me in this poll was that former President Trump, has the lead with younger voters. That's certainly not what happened in 2020. Did the youth suddenly change their mind?
Is he hip now all of a sudden?
Has he been memeified? Is this about a backlash to the president's handling of the situation in Gaza? What do you attribute that to?
I think the latter. I mean, what I also found, though, the Santa poll, when they wrote it up, had, some typical profile of a 27-year-old in the Bay Area who was disillusioned with Biden but was really fearful of Trump. I guess I have a hard time believing that a 27-year-old in the Bay Area, when faced with Biden and Trump, is going to suddenly be like, I'm not going to show up. But I think for right now, that might be where some of those stuff in the polls show. But to be fair, Trump does clean up with younger voters, according to all the polls I've seen, internal and external, among the GOP base. So that could give a little guidance there, at least.
It may affect the Haley part of that conversation. Chuck, I want to put something up on that one of these younger voters told our NBC team. If we could show this on the screen. This voter says, Biden made a lot of really big promises in his campaign, and virtually none of them were followed through on, said Austin Capp, a 25-year-old living in Castle Rock, Colorado. He could have codified Roe v. Wade. He could have stood up for the rights of people all over this country. He could have done a lot of things, but he didn't. What do you make of that critique of President Biden at the 3-year mark here?
I think this is going to be the first election, and I've been doing this for 34 years, where we're going to call it the TikTok election, because this is where these kids are going to get their information. I ran Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign. I know a little bit about the youth vote. And what I know is that half of it is just showing up. I think Matt would agree with me. No matter which side of the aisle you're on, these kids just got out of college. They may be going to their first jobs. They want to know who's going to address what they care about. They may not have all the information, but there's one thing I know for sure. They're not tuning into the nightly news like I do at 5 o'clock to see what the weather and the traffic's going to be like. They're on TikTok or some other social media getting information, and Donald Trump is kicking our butt on TikTok.
In terms of the tactical approach, not the message.
Just having a massive amount of memes and people out there talking about him.
Matt,
I've actually heard this, right? So everyone, it's kind of thought to be common knowledge that the left and Democrats kind of dominate TikTok. I've heard actually it's far more conservative than you think. And I think as a party, from an official apparatus standpoint, look, I think we need to ban it. I think most of the party establishment believes so. But we're going to get to a point where we either need to ban it once and for all, or somehow get on it, because it's not going away. It's a main source of news for these folks.
I wanted to change the topic here, but you're probably the only person at this table who's on TikTok. What do you make of this argument? Is the left getting its clock cleaned in the meme wars here, or what?
The Biden campaign isn't even on TikTok. I know it's something that they've been toying with. I know they have surrogates on the app, but it is where young people get their news. Whether the news is correct or not, that's a whole other conversation for a whole other time. But they're not, on X, which is, a dying platform. They're not on Facebook like their parents. They are getting their news there. And the reality is that's what they said that Obama's first campaign was the Twitter campaign, Facebook campaign later. And now we're seeing that TikTok has a total hold over these young voters.
Fine. I'll download TikTok after the show.
You're going to have to as a dad.
I know that's true.
That's where the youths are. That's where the youths are.
So is this where Democrats need the abortion issue to ride to the rescue here? Is this the thing that kind of unites the base, brings people back into the fold? It's certainly the only issue where you see a consistent polling lead for the current president on the former president.
It for sure bailed us out in the midterm elections. And then you couple that with what you have every every day of Donald Trump saying on the stump, whether it's talking about blood or talking about whatever the thing of the day is that he's dominating the news cycle on. The thing I find the most interesting is you see Republican Congress and Senate campaigns trying to distance themselves almost as much as you see Democratic House and Senate campaigns trying to distance themselves. I think that's the most interesting thing on the right and on the left of how the top of the ticket is going to affect the bottom of the ticket.
That's very interesting stuff. Matt, I want to talk a little bit about the Republican primary. As Daniella pointed out, is in fact still going on. Nikki Haley has all of a sudden kind of been the candidate with the momentum. She's been taking shots at Trump. I want to play a little bit of what she had to say about the former president yesterday. Let's watch.
I think that his policies were good. But if you look at what's happening now, the part that bothers me is our national security is at risk. And what's he doing? He's praising dictators. When Israel fell to her knees, what'd he do? He talked about an old vendetta with Netanyahu and praised Hezbollah. He praised President Xi a dozen times after China gave the world COVID. He said Kim Jong-un is his friend. He congratulated the Chinese Communist Party on the 70th anniversary. We can't have that.
I think there are a whole lot of people watching that and wondering where that's been for the last several months. But is that going to cut it? Is that direct enough? What do you make of the strategy now of coming more directly, at least, after Donald Trump?
I think it's certainly direct enough. And I think what it also does is now I think she feels strong enough where she can go head-to-head with him. But also she's essentially taking the air out for Ron DeSantis. There's no room in a Haley versus Trump battle. We didn't mention the words Ron DeSantis. And that's hard for him, right? Because he is in the third place or so in New Hampshire at least. He needs some oxygen. So if it becomes a Haley versus Trump fight, that hurts him, number one. But number two is, will we get to see it on a debate stage? That's a real question. Right now, there's no incentive for Trump to come to a debate stage with the polls being the way they are.
He's made very clear he has no interest in this. But all of a sudden, his PAC at least is paying attention to Nikki Haley. Watch this.
Nikki Haley promised.
I will not now, not ever, support raising the gas tax.
Really? Not now? Not ever? Just 24 months later, high-tax Haley flipped.
Let's increase the gas tax by 10 cents.
Backing higher taxes hurts families. New Hampshire can't afford Nikki high-tax Haley.
Now, this is from the PAC, not the campaign, but I'm from the school of thought that if you want to know what a campaign really thinks, you see where they spend their money. And here you've got the PAC spending actual dollars to go after Nikki Haley, not Ron DeSantis. What do you make of that in New Hampshire?
They're threatened. They know that she has a shot, and they wouldn't be doing this. They wouldn't be spending their money if they didn't think that they had a credible threat for their primary campaign, and putting money toward that is trying to kill that threat. Now, whether that will be successful or not remains to be seen. It's a couple of weeks until the New Hampshire primary, but it's a sign.
Chuck, what do you make of the kind of asymmetrical warfare element of this, right? That's a very standard issue ad. Nikki Haley's going to raise your taxes. Haley can't go out. Haley's going after Trump on loving Kim Jong-un, and Trump's saying she'll raise your taxes. It's a total imbalance in this campaign about the standards by which these candidates are held, is it not?
And I think that's the dilemma that the party's in. That's the dilemma that Nikki Haley's in. Is she's never going to be the standard bearer like Donald Trump is, but Donald Trump's got to come back at her with something. Like, I'm sure they had this in the can.
Right.
It was quick. It was dirty. Boom. He saw the Coke money move over to her, and he gets nervous. And like, put something up. They can make something better later and have some cheeky meme.
I think I only have time for one more question, Chuck, so I'm going to give you a double dip here at the end of this. We have this new CNBC survey out that has Biden trailing Trump by 5 points among Latino voters after winning them by 33 points in 2020. I assume we won't go back to TikTok on this, but maybe we will. What do you make of that challenging turn of course here for the current president with Latino voters?
It's the newest and the best persuasion audience there ever has been, because the average age, we're going to go back to TikTok, of a Latino voter is 27. And so guess what? They're not their mothers and fathers, and they're coming of age quicker, so they're having a bigger impact, and they're not dyed-in-the-wool Democrats or Republicans. They are literally up for grab, and that's why you're seeing them move all over the place.
Did you find any of this when you guys were still in the race? Latino voters paying more attention to Republican candidates? Do you think this is a Trump-specific phenomenon, or is there really a more receptive audience here, Matt?
I think the receptive audience, they're with us in large part, I should say, in more so on social issues than, say, a lot of other parts of the Democratic electorate. They're younger also, absolutely. And yeah, I think they're absolutely up for grabs. Yeah.
It's funny because that same group voted for Bernie Sanders at 73%. That's something to take home.
Especially except for the border.
Let me get Daniella here on this really quick. Have you thoughts on this? On the Latino voters polling so strongly for the former president?
I mean, I've seen a total shift, and I'm a Latina in my own community. I'm from McAllen, Texas, and it's been so different in those 3 counties down there.
Yeah.
Reflective of the congressional races, a seat flipped. And 2 of those members are up for a re-election. Those are tough re-elections for them. It's just a sign of the hold that Donald Trump's message is having on Latino voters. A lot of people say Latino men predominantly support
That's certainly
him.
who they're targeting.
Yes, and it's working. And,
That's who's moving.
And a lot of voters that I've spoken to feel like they are not being spoken to or at least helped by the Biden administration.
All right, folks, we got to stop it there. I'll bring you all back for that 2-hour show I keep plugging. Meanwhile, we're going to all go download TikTok. Gentlemen, thank you all. Daniella, thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.